Hi guys, it's John from Android Addicts, and today we're going to be taking a look at Mantis Mouse Pro. So from the developers of Mantis Gamepad Pro, they've now come out with a mouse and keyboard version of the app. So today we're going to look at getting that installed and set up, and then configuring a few games with a keyboard and mouse. So these are the bits and pieces you're going to need along with your phone. So I'm using this USB-C to USB-A and HDMI adapter. And this allows me to connect a USB hub, which in turn allows me to connect a keyboard and mouse. So I've gone for a USB hub here, which allows you to turn on and off the devices individually. Now you don't have to do that, but I do find that during activation sometimes you do need to basically unplug and plug your mouse and keyboard back in. So sometimes it's just easier just to quickly turn them on and off from here. But yeah, you don't have to have one with buttons on, but it can help to save a few unplugs and replugs. So I'll put some links down in the description if you want to pick these up. They are available on Amazon. Now if you want to be able to play on a monitor or TV, get one with an HDMI adapter, and obviously get one with a USB-C port as well, because you want to be able to charge your phone whilst you're playing. So we'll go through setting all this up a bit later on. Let's start by downloading the app and getting it installed. So just search for Mantis Mouse Pro in the Play Store, and then click install. It's completely free to download and install, and if you do want to pay a small fee, you can unlock some additional features. So those new additional features are things like Samsung DeX support and the ability to control sensitivity of your X and Y movements. Amongst a few other things, those are some of the new features that they have brought out in this app, which is really nice. So here is Mantis Mouse Pro as you first load it. As you can see here, we've got a bit of a warning sign saying that we need to start the Mantis Buddy. So Mantis Buddy is basically the service that runs, which makes the whole thing work. So without that running, you're not going to be able to use your mouse and keyboard on your phone. Now to enable this, you do have to follow a number of steps. So there's 5 in total, and it does take you through it exactly what you need to do here. It shows you step by step as well with these little animated images. So it's pretty easy, but it does take a moment to do. So we're just going to run through that now together. So the first thing it's going to ask us to do is to allow Mantis Mouse Pro to float on top of other windows. So we're going to click the enable button here, and that will take us to the relevant place in our settings. And we're just going to tick this little switch here, and that is now enabled to appear on top of other apps. Now you need this because the way Mantis works, it floats on top of your screen and emulates a press. So you do have to do all these steps or you won't be able to use this. So next up we need to enable USB debugging. Now if you press enable here and you don't have developer options enabled first, we're going to have to do that first before we can continue. So go into your settings and scroll down to the bottom and just press on the About Phone, and then where software information is, just click on here, and where it says build number, we need to click on this 7 times. So we're going to press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's going to ask for your PIN, pop that in, and you'll now see that developer mode has been enabled. So we can go back to Mantis now, and we can click enable. And it's now going to ask us to turn on USB debugging. So you can see that here, we're going to enable that and just click on OK. So now if we click back, we can see it's asking us to now enable wireless debugging. So this is what is required for Mantis to activate itself. So you do have to be on a Wi-Fi network for this to work. If you don't have a wireless network, then you can't activate like this, so you do need to be connected to Wi-Fi. If you press enable, now the wireless debugging is just a few lines under the USB debugging. You can see it here, so we're going to turn that on. Click on back. Next step, number 4, is going to ask us to allow overlays over settings. So again, we're going to press on enable here. And this is another setting in developer options. It is under the debugging section, so don't scroll past it. And here it is here. Allow screen overlays on settings. So we're going to press the enable on that. Click on back again. And we're going to mark this one as done because we have proceeded with that step. So next up is the pairing via wireless debugging. So this is one of the new easier ways of activating, and it's even easier than it is in Mantis Gamepad because this now is a floating window which allows you to pair quite easily. So we're going to click on start pairing, and you'll see here we've got a floating window now. Rather than worrying about splitting the screen up and having it in separate parts of the screen, we can now use this floating widget, which makes things a lot easier. So with that floating up there, what we're going to do is scroll back down to wireless debugging. I'm going to click on the left side here. We don't want to turn it off. We're just going to click here to select it. We're now in the wireless debugging section. So what we want to do is pair our device with a pairing code. So we're going to click on here. And you'll see here down at the bottom, we have pair device. We've got the Wi-Fi pairing code, and we've got an IP address and port. So the only things we care about, as you can see in this little floating widget here, are the 6-digit pairing code and the 5-digit port. So you can see here the port after the colon on mine is 44947, and my Wi-Fi pairing code is 974762. So I'm going to pop those into here. Like I say, it's quite easy now to have this floating widget to do the activation. So I'm going to do 974762. And my 5-digit port is 44947. Once you've done that, click on pair. You can see we have ADB pairing successful, and it says it can take up to a minute for Mantis Buddy to start. It's already started though here, you can see a nice green tick. Now sometimes you can get stuck here when it's pairing. If that does happen, just close the window, go back to Mantis, click to start pairing again, and put a new number in and a new port number, and just keep trying. You may even need to reboot your phone sometimes for that to work, but once you've done the initial pairing, things are a lot easier in the future. You can see here it even says after the device has restarted, just turn on wireless debugging and then launch Mantis, and it will auto reconnect. So this is just a one-time thing basically to get your device paired here. We can now see it in the wireless debugging paired devices section. So that's the only time we're going to need to do that. So we can now click back again, and you can see we're now all set to go. So let's click on the back up here, and we can see Mantis Buddy connected, and we have one peripheral connected. So when we plug in our keyboard and mouse, we're going to obviously have a few more devices connected, but I will move over to my screen now because I'm going to plug in with HDMI as well, and we'll just see how it all looks. We'll get some games added in, and we'll just go through exactly how you can configure each game in turn. I've put some timecodes in the description if you want to skip to any particular part, but I'm going to start off with Genshin Impact, and then we'll move on to PUBG and the like. So before we move over, like I say, the Pro version, it's £2.50, which is around $4, $3 or $4, so it's pretty cheap, and it's a one-time purchase. You don't have to pay a monthly fee or anything. That gets rid of all the ads. It adds the full gesture support, the MOBA car support, and the sequence button support as well, and it also allows you to add in as many games as you like. So we're going to add in a game. You do get a warning message here that you may need to disable priority mode from Samsung Game Booster for Mantis to function properly. Now I've got Game Booster disabled completely, but if you do have it enabled still, you can just go into there and just disable priority mode, and that will stop it causing any problems with Mantis. So I'm going to press understood here, and I'm going to scroll down, and we're going to add in Genshin Impact. I'll add in the other games as well, just for fun. Okay, so we're over here on the keyboard and mouse, and I'm just going to record the screen here so I can overlay that when required. But basically I'm now going to plug in my USB-C adapter. This is what I've already got set up to do the job, so it's a slightly different color to my other one, but it's exactly the same idea. So I'm going to plug this in. Okay, so I've got the mouse connected now. You can see now I'm moving my mouse here. It is functioning in Android. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm just going to add Mantis onto the home screen here. Okay, we're going to go inside, and we're already activated. We can see our peripherals have been detected. Now I do recommend that you use a wired mouse and keyboard for this. I did have some troubles trying to use Bluetooth mice and keyboard. It didn't really work. So if you've got wired, I would go for wired. And what we're going to do is launch the game from within Mantis Mouse Pro. So I'm going to click on Genshin Impact, and this is now going to start it up. Now you can see here it's telling you straight away the mouse modes. You can switch between them by pressing the middle button of your mouse. So we'll go through that in a moment so you can see what that is. So phases allow you to have different shortcuts on the screen depending on what situation you are in the game. So we will go through all that obviously as we get into the game itself. See here I'm pressing the middle button here and it's switching the mode. So the touch mode is the one you want to be in when you're playing the game, and the pointer mode is what you want to be in when you're setting up. So I'm going to just get into Genshin here. I'm going to do the initial setup. So here we are on Genshin. You can see here we can click on things and they are working with the mouse, but that isn't quite how we want to play the game. We want to play with the keyboard and mouse as you would with a sort of FPS game. So what we're going to do is use this floating Mantis widget here to set up our controls. So to do that, we're going to click on the Mantis icon itself and we're going to click on Add. And you can see it's going to swipe over to the other side here just to show you that there are additional controls. But the first one we're going to add in is our WASD. So I'm going to click on here and that adds it to the screen. So click on the plus to remove that. And we're just going to drag this across onto our directional pad down at the bottom. Now you can make this bigger and smaller depending on the game. I'm just going to leave it at that sort of default size at the moment. That should be fine. In the settings, you can turn on camera mode. So that is where you would use a finger swipe to control the camera or movement. You can use that with the keys. And again here you can set the sensitivity of the x-axis and the y-axis separately. So if you want it to be more sensitive on the x than the y, you can do so, and vice versa. And you can also invert the axis for those people who like things inverted. So I'm going to click on the tick here. We've added that in there. Now we're going to add in our camera movement, and I'm going to use the mouse myself for camera movement in most games. So what I'm going to do is just move this over a bit. I'm going to swipe back over here and we're going to add in a mouse. So this is going to be our movement. So you again set this bigger and smaller depending on the game, and you've got additional settings for this where you can set the sensitivity for X and Y again individually and also invert the axis. Now I am, from experience, going to set this to the maximum sensitivity, and my mouse I've set to, I think it's 3600 DPI. If you've got a mouse with a slower DPI, you may, or a lower DPI that is, you may actually have issues with camera control, but I'll show you that shortly. So let's just test that these are working. We're going to click on the Mantis button here, and then to activate that we're going to press our middle button on the mouse. And you'll see we've gone into touch mode. Okay, now give it a few moments and then just try moving around. So see here, the W, A, S and D are all working okay. And I should now be able to look around with my mouse. So you can see here the mouse movement isn't the fastest in the world. Now that's why I've set mine to the maximum speed here, or maximum sensitivity. Now you can have a play around. If we press the mouse middle button again, we can play around with the size of this and make it bigger or smaller. So let's try a bigger one, see if that's any better. Let's pop that there. Middle mouse button again to switch to touch mode, and then again give it a few moments to activate again. You can see here it's a bit better there, or get it to a position where you find it is the most usable. Now don't forget, obviously some games do have settings inside as well, so we can have a look in here. We can see the camera sensitivity. We can set that up to be 5, and we'll do the same for the aimed shot mode. So let's come out of here and see if that's any better. So again, we're going to click on the middle mouse button to go back to touch mode. Give it a few moments, and then yeah, okay, that's much better now. We can definitely scroll around a bit better, I'd say. So I think what we can also do is just resize this again, take that back up to there, press the middle mouse button, switch to touch mode, and there's our camera movement. It's much better than it was previously, I'd say, but you've just got to have a play around with it really, and it depends on the game that you're playing as to how sensitive it is. So let's set up some other buttons. Let's say we're going to set our jump button. So I'm going to click on the plus, press the key button here, and we're going to press the space bar, and that's going to bring up the space bar here. Let's just drag that over to the jump icon there. We're also going to set one for hitting. So let's say we're going to use, say, I don't know, let's say R for hit. We're going to use shift for run. And we're going to use F for our special move down here. Just drag that over there. So we could now switch back to touch mode. And we've got our hit, we've got our run, and we've got our jump. So have a play around with these, and get to a state where you're happy with the controls, And once you are happy, obviously it will save it for that game that you're in. If you want to play around with different phases, like I said, you can add another phase here. So let's say phase 2. And as you'll see, when I select phase 2, all the icons disappear and we can now set up a different map of our controls. So for Genshin, you're probably not going to need that, but for things like PUBG and Call of Duty, where you have different controls, layouts potentially for different game modes, that is quite useful. So I'm going to remove that phase from there. Close the phases. The keyboard bit here just tells you exactly what is connected currently. So if you're having any trouble with something not working, you can have a look in here and see why it isn't working. And in the settings section here, you can set the mouse mode shortcuts. So this is what switches between the different modes, touch mode and the pointer mode. So I was pressing my mouse button in the middle to do that, but you can change it to any key on the keyboard as well if you wish. You can use a shortcut to change phases. You can disable the shortcut completely, and you can set the button opacity here so it doesn't appear so strong on the screen. So if you want it as invisible as possible, you can do that and it all disappears. Now I'll just switch back to touch mode, wait for the mouse to go, and we're now playing Genshin Impact without anyone knowing that we're using a keyboard and mouse. Okay, so that is Genshin Impact. Let's go through setting up another game. Okay, so I recommend for PUBG that you actually go into the training mode so that you can just set up your controls without actually going into a game and waiting for it to start. So get straight into the training mode, and then we're going to get ourselves set up. Okay, so we're in PUBG now, and we're going to set up the controls here. I'll show you what I've done so far. So I've basically added in the WASD, I've done the mouse look, I've done a left click for fire or punch here. We've got space for jump, we've got the C for crouch, and I'll just add in a key for going completely prone on the floor. Sometimes it can be easier just to drag and drop your keys with your finger. So let's give this a try now. So we're in touch mode. You can punch. So you probably want to do other things such as things for picking up, so let's set some buttons up for that. So we'll go back into pointer mode, and just for ease so you can see what's going on here, I'm going to add in 3 keys. We're going to do 1, 2 and 3 on the keyboard, and we're going to place those as follows. And again, sometimes it doesn't always pick up, so I'm going to use my finger to drag and drop this over here. So we're going to have key 2 up here. Basically key 1 will pick up the top object, key 2 will pick up the second object down, key 3 will pick up the third item. So I'm going to pick up like so. So you can pick and choose what you want here. So that'll be how I would get around that. And what else could we do? Let's actually get a gun and sort out the scope and things. So we're going to go back into touch mode, let's find a gun. Okay, so we're going to press 1 to pick up the org here. Okay, so I should be able to shoot without any problems, which I can, but I want to do an ADS, so let's go back to pointer mode. Okay, what we're going to do is we're actually going to use the shift key for our ADS. So let's give that a go. Okay, that looks good. Because we've got a sort of click and hold down here, so what we do need to do is adjust our sensitivity. Yeah, okay, that's better. It's not brilliant, but it is better. So what we might need to do, might need to adjust our sensitivity in here. Let's put this back down to say 0.5. Okay, and then switch back. Okay, it does look a lot smoother now. So let's ADS. Yeah, I think that is better actually. I would find that a little bit better to aim with. But yeah, the sensitivity, you need to play around with it basically. Find something that works for you. That is the general idea of how you would set this this up. Let's go and find a vehicle, and we'll just do the controls for that as well, just for fun. We haven't done our running yet actually either. Let's do that. So Obviously in here we're going to have to do something with this to make sure that the W hits the run. So if we put it up a bit like that, let's try adjusting where our run button is. If we bring it down, hopefully that will touch. Let's give that a go. Yep, so we can now sprint, which is good. Okay, so vehicles. We might be okay with our buttons here. Let's just double check. So our key 3 and key 2 might be okay, but let's use another key anyway. Let's say the E key. Okay, so we're driving, and now obviously we're going to have to do something different with our controls here. So this could be the perfect time to stick in another phase, because we've got quite a few different buttons here. So let's create a new phase. So our new phase here, we're going to select that. Okay, so now we're in phase 2. What we're going to do is add in our buttons to be able to drive. So I'm going to do a W, I'm going to do a S, I'm going to do an A and a D. Okay, so that should be enough to, let's see, D can be right, A can be left, S can be down, W can be up. Okay, that'll be enough just to get us going here on the bike. Okay, and there we are. We have got our bike controls up in our phase 2 here. So to switch back, don't forget there's a shortcut. So the shortcut is currently left, Control and P. So let's just give that a go. Control and P. So now we've gone back to phase 1. And now we've gone back to phase 2. So we probably should do a button to exit. Let's do E key to exit. Right, so we're going to exit this. We're going to do Control and P, and we should now be back in our normal controls. Okay, so a few troubleshooting tips I've got for you if you do have any issues. Basically, it's normally if you're trying to add a control and it doesn't want to add it, there's a few things you can do. What I've tried doing before is just basically coming out of the game itself, going back into Mantis, and then actually relaunching the game through Mantis. Now, it's obviously already in the background, so it's pretty quick to do that. And sometimes that does fix a few glitches and bugs. If you get to a stage where you can't move something around on the screen when you're in pointer mode, so for example, if you can't drag something, then I just suggest you just use your finger to do it, because sometimes the certainly on my S22 here, it doesn't seem to want to drag things around the screen very well. So sometimes, like you can see here, for example, it's not actually dragging. But if I use my finger, it's absolutely fine. So that's another thing just to bear in mind. Sometimes it's better to use your finger, and sometimes it's quicker anyway, to be honest. The other thing that if you can't do anything at all, you still can't add keys, what I would do is basically come out your game, unplug or turn off your keyboard and mouse. So I'm going to just press the button here to do it because I can. So turn off your keyboard and mouse, go into your settings, turn off wireless debugging, then go back into Mantis, go back into your settings, turn on wireless debugging, and wait for Mantis to connect. Once it's reconnected, don't connect your keyboard and mouse yet, but go back into your game. And then we're going to turn the keyboard and mouse back on. And normally that does fix things. Like I say, I've had it a few times where it doesn't seem to register things properly, but yeah, just do these things and you should be okay. So you can see here, for example, it's taking a while to actually load up, but it has got there in the end. So yeah, you do have to have a bit of patience as well sometimes, because it doesn't always load things up straight away, so just bear that in mind as well. But yeah, other than that, it seems to work pretty well, and it's obviously giving you the ability to control your game with better accuracy and just make it a lot easier to play. Now this isn't detectable. The reason it isn't detectable is because of the way Mantis works. So because it runs as a service in the USB debugging mode. It can't be detected by any games, so you shouldn't get banned from anything. I've never heard anyone getting banned from this before, although people do always ask if you do get banned, but you don't get banned, and I've never been banned from anything, so you should be good to go. So yeah, if you have any questions or any problems, then do check out the FAQs in the Mantis app itself. Read the common problems. So just have a read through some of these because it can help you if you are having problems. I know that some phones, like the Xiaomi phones and others, need additional features disabling. So just make sure you read everything, and just, like I say, worst comes to the worst, kill Mantis, restart the game with your keyboard disconnected, and you should hopefully be better next time you start it up. All else fails, reboot your phone, and yeah, hopefully you'll be okay. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do like and subscribe, and don't forget to leave any comments you have down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.